New York did not plan to shape the future of pro football, yet history shows that many turning points in the sport trace back to the city. This fact sits quietly in old records, but it carries weight. It gives a reason to care because the choices made in New York pushed the NFL toward the path people know today. New York was already a center of news, business, and crowds in the early 1900s. The city held energy that pulled in ideas and talent. This was the same period when American football tried to move from college fields to paid competition. The game had rough rules and many injuries. It did not gain trust from the public. Investors worried that pro football would never stand on its own. This created tension that sets the stage for what came next. The first professional teams formed in small towns. They did not reach major cities at first. New York stayed on the edge, watching the sport fight for order and stability. But that distance made the shift more dramatic. When the city stepped in, the whole league changed. That is the tease of what is coming. Before the NFL existed, strong figures in New York paid attention to the growing sport. Newspapers in the city covered college games at the Polo Grounds. These colleges drew massive crowds, and promoters noticed the demand. Yet few were willing to take the risk of forming pro teams in a city where failure was public. A mistake in New York was never quiet. This risk held the city back for a time and pushed tension higher. By 1910, the sport gained force in other states, but New York remained a dream rather than a home for professional teams. Many believed the city was too big and too harsh for a new sport to survive. This was a central debate. Could pro football grow in a place driven by fast news cycles and intense competition? The answer waited on a group of determined men who would challenge the doubts. One of the earliest figures to see promise was Tim Mara, though his breakthrough came later. Before him, promoters Charles Stoneham and John McGraw studied the sport's rise. They controlled baseball teams and had power at the Polo Grounds. Their names would matter soon, but during this early era, they watched from a distance. They tested crowds, they tested timing, they tested interest in the city. These smaller actions are lesser known, but they prepared New York for its entrance. The tension grew when the American Professional Football Association, formed in 1920, struggled to earn national respect. Many early teams folded. Some played in front of very small crowds. Reports from Ohio and Indiana showed weak numbers. Without New York, the new league had no major market. This detail shaped every decision the founders made. They needed a city that could prove football had a future. New York was the only city with that power. A turning point came in 1921. The AFPA granted a franchise to a team that would play in New York under the name New York Brickley Giants. This is a hidden piece of history for many fans. The team came from Charles Brickley, a former Harvard star. The team did not last long. It only played a few games. Crowds stayed small. The team folded fast. Yet the event mattered. It showed the league that entering New York would not be simple. It built tension for what would follow.
The failure raised fear inside the league. Some thought New York was too expensive. Some thought promoters lacked skill. Some feared the newspapers would crush any weak attempt. But others saw a different truth. They saw that one failed team did not mean the market lacked interest. It meant the league needed the right plan and the right people. This is where the story pulls deeper. New York was not yet ready, but the dream did not fade. The city continued to draw attention. Crowds filled college football games. The Polo Grounds held events that showed demand. College matches between Army, Notre Dame, and other major programs brought tens of thousands of fans. These numbers grew into proof. They showed that the city wanted football, but needed proper guidance. By 1923, the league changed its name to the National Football League. The rebranding carried hope, but also pressure. The new name sounded stronger. It promised unity. It demanded credibility. But without New York, those promises felt weak. Fans in major cities judged the league as a minor operation. The NFL needed a flagship city, and New York's absence created doubt and suspense. The emotional weight here is real. The league stood at a crossroads. It could grow or it could fall apart. Many teams struggled with money. Many owners held meetings with fear in their voices. They did not want the league to collapse. They believed New York could be the key to survival. But getting into New York was a challenge that could break the league if mishandled. Behind the scenes, some owners visited New York to study markets. They met promoters. They watched games. They walked through neighborhoods where crowds gathered for sports. They did this quietly because they feared failure. These small scouting trips shaped the league's future. They proved that research mattered as much as courage. And then came Tim Mara, a calm bookmaker who knew risk but understood discipline. He did not seek attention. He did not have a background in football, but he had a sharp sense for business. He saw opportunity where others saw chaos. His story will rise in later chapters, but in this first moment, he was a man waiting in the wings, not yet aware of the role he would play. The tension rises here because New York stood on the edge of history. The league needed the city. The city needed a leader who understood its pace. The story holds still for a moment, as both sides wait for the move that will shape the modern NFL. The NFL needed a presence in New York. That pressure built during the early 1920s. The league had a new name and a new mission, but not enough stability. Without a major city behind it, the league risked public doubt. This is the setup for the moment that changed everything. In 1925, the NFL reached out to a man who was not involved in football at all. His name was Tim Mara. He worked as a bookmaker and also handled business matters for local newspapers. He understood risk, but he stayed calm in decisions. This made him different from many sports promoters of that era. The NFL approached him because he had strong ties to New York and trusted judgment. This invitation became one of the most important turning points in league history.
The NFL offered Mara a franchise for a very small fee. Reports say it cost $500, with another $2,500 in working capital. These numbers show how the league struggled to gain value at that time. Many cities did not want a team. Many investors avoided the league. Mara accepted the challenge, which surprised observers. He saw potential in the sport that others could not see. This decision gave the NFL a presence in the nation's biggest city. Mara named his team the New York Giants. The name connected to the famous baseball giants at the Polo Grounds. This gave instant recognition to the new football team. It also created pressure. Crowds expected quality. Newspapers expected strong performances. Mara had to build a roster that could stand on its own. He did this by spending money from his own pocket. He understood that failure in New York would hurt the league. He chose stability over shortcuts. The Giants played their first season in 1925. Crowds were not large at first. The team struggled to attract attention. But something important happened that same year. A player named Red Grange, one of the biggest stars in college football, joined the rival Chicago Bears. That decision changed the landscape. Grange's fame brought huge crowds to NFL games. When the Bears scheduled a game in New York against the Giants, everything shifted. On December 6, 1925, more than 70,000 fans filled the Polo Grounds to watch Grange play. This event proved that New York cared about pro football when given a real reason. The game gave the NFL a presence in the nation's biggest city. Mara named his team the New York Giants. The name connected to the famous baseball giants at the Polo Grounds. This gave instant recognition to the new football team. It also created pressure. Crowds expected quality. Newspapers expected strong performances. Mara had to build a roster that could stand on its own. He did this by spending money from his own pocket. He understood that failure in New York would hurt the league. He chose stability over shortcuts.
The NFL proved stronger than rival leagues. The Giants helped carry that victory. New York became a symbol of the league's power to endure. Other owners looked at the Giants and saw a model worth copying. Stability, patience, careful spending. This shaped how the NFL developed in the years ahead.
As New York's team grew, the league grew too. More cities showed interest. More players joined the sport. The Giants kept improving their roster. They gained a reputation for strong defense and physical play. By the early 1930s, they became one of the strongest teams in the league. But deeper issues were rising across the country. The United States entered the Great Depression. Many families lost work. Entertainment money shrank. Sports suffered. Several NFL teams folded during these years, but the Giants survived again due to careful planning. Tim Mara cut costs without damaging team quality. New York fans continued to support the team in tough times. Their loyalty became a foundation for the NFL's survival during the economic crisis. A turning point came in 1933. The NFL introduced divisional play and a championship game. This was a major reform. It organized the season in a clearer way. It gave fans something to look forward to. The first official NFL championship game featured the Giants against the Chicago Bears. The game took place at Wrigley Field, not in New York, but the Giants' appearance showed their strength. They lost the game, but the event gave the league a bigger national stage. New York played a major role in the coverage of the new championship. Newspapers in the city treated the event as a serious sports moment. They published detailed reports. They boosted the league's presence. This helped the NFL gain credibility across the country. Media power in New York pushed pro football forward. This is a lesser-known fact that mattered deeply. The comeback to New York arrived 2 years later. The 1934 NFL championship game was held at the Polo Grounds. This game became known in history for its impact. The field turned icy. Players slipped. The Giants changed their shoes at halftime, giving them better traction. The Bears struggled to adjust. The Giants won the game 30-13. This event became one of the early iconic NFL moments. New York witnessed it firsthand. This victory brought pride to New York. It also gave the NFL a powerful story. The game showed how preparation and smart decisions could change outcomes. It created national attention. It pushed the sport into more newspapers. New York earned a place at the center of the league's rise. By the end of the 1930s, the Giants became one of the strongest NFL franchises. They reached multiple championship games. Their presence in New York gave the league stability. It gave the league credibility. It helped the league survive in years when many teams disappeared. New York's role was not only about success, it was about endurance.
By the early 1940s, the NFL stood stronger than before, but it faced new pressure. The world entered a period of war. Many players joined the military. Teams lost key talent. The league questioned how to move forward. This is where New York's presence helped steady the sport once again. The Giants entered this period with discipline learned through earlier struggles. Tim Mara and his sons kept the team stable. They made careful moves. They relied on depth in the roster. Many teams across the league folded or merged to stay alive during the war years. New York did not fold. This gave the league a sense of structure and kept public interest alive. It also reinforced the idea that major cities could support the NFL in hard times. During the war, players from New York served in different branches of the military. Some never returned. Their names appear in old team records and memorials. These losses hit the franchise with quiet force. Fans felt the absence. The team treated the wartime seasons with respect. They played through uncertainty, and this effort helped keep the league running.
Without stable teams, the NFL could have collapsed during the war years. New York's steady presence mattered more than the public understood. The NFL used smaller rosters and made adjustments to travel. Many players worked other jobs during the week due to wartime shortages. Stadium attendance dropped in some places, but New York crowds stayed more consistent. People came to the Polo Grounds for escape and routine. These moments helped keep the league visible. New York's support carried emotional meaning during a time of fear and loss. A small detail from this era deserves attention. New York newspapers continued to cover the NFL through the war. They published player stories. They explained rule changes. They reported on teams across the league, not just the Giants. These papers kept the sport alive in public memory. In cities with smaller media markets, football disappeared from the news during the war. New York's coverage filled that gap. This helped protect the league's future. When the war ended in 1945, players returned home. Many came back to football. The NFL faced a new landscape. Crowds wanted entertainment again. Soldiers looked for normal life. The country had a renewed desire for sports. New York once again became the center of this shift. Games in the city drew strong attendance. The Giants used this period to rebuild their roster. They prepared for a new decade ahead. The late 1940s introduced a new challenge. A rival league appeared again. This time, it was the All-America Football Conference, AAFC. It launched in 1946 and planned to compete directly with the NFL. The AAFC placed a team in New York called the New York Yankees, unrelated to the baseball club but borrowing the name for recognition. This set up another battle for the New York market. The AAFC had strong financial support. It brought in talent from college football and military teams. It introduced new ideas in contracts and roster strategy. The Giants faced pressure. The AAFC Yankees played in Yankee Stadium, giving them strong visibility. Crowds attended both teams' games. This forced both leagues to raise their standards. New York once again became the proving ground for pro football. The city held enough demand for two teams, but only one league could remain in control. The tension rose each year. The AAFC had powerful teams in Cleveland and San Francisco. It gained national attention, but many AAFC teams lost money. The Giants kept steady, following their long-term habits. The NFL monitored the situation closely. It knew New York would help decide which league survived.
In 1949, the AAFC merged into the NFL. 3 teams were added: the Cleveland Browns, San Francisco 49ers, and Baltimore Colts. The New York AAFC Yankees did not survive the merger. Their players were placed into other teams. New York stayed loyal to the Giants, and the NFL claimed full control of the city. This resolved the rivalry. It also strengthened the NFL by adding new talent and ideas learned during the AAFC years. This period also brought growth in radio coverage. New York stations aired more games and interviews. Families gathered around radios to follow the Giants. The broadcast crews described plays in clear terms, making football easier for new fans to understand. Radio helped bring the sport into homes. New York's strong broadcasting network accelerated this shift. This laid the foundation for something larger. Television arrived next. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, TV sets appeared in more homes. The Giants were one of the earliest teams to have games televised. New York networks led the way because they had strong technical equipment and large audiences. This is a turning point in sports history. Television changed how fans consumed football. It allowed fans outside New York to watch the Giants. It helped grow the NFL into a national brand. The cameras captured details that radio could not. Fans saw formations, they saw movement, they saw the atmosphere of the Polo Grounds. The Giants became familiar faces across the country.
This visual connection created emotional ties. It made the NFL more than local entertainment. It made it national. During this era, a key figure emerged on the Giants roster, Steve Owen. He had joined the Giants as a player years earlier and became the head coach in 1930. He stayed in that role until 1953. His long tenure provided stability in a league where many coaches changed frequently. Owen introduced new defensive concepts. He helped shape the team's identity. His leadership kept the Giants competitive for more than 2 decades. One of Owen's most famous contributions was the umbrella defense, a formation that spread players to defend against strong passing teams. This approach helped contain powerful offenses. It influenced future defensive strategies. New York's reputation for strong defense began here. This is a lesser-known but important piece of football history. As television grew, so did New York's place in the league. Broadcasters used the city for experiments in scheduling and production. Night games aired to test audience interest. Interviews with players gained popularity. The Giants participated in these early broadcasts because the city offered large markets and strong advertising interest. These steps pushed the NFL toward the broadcast-driven league it would become. But there was tension during this period as well. The Polo Grounds aged, its condition declined. Seats were uncomfortable. Facilities were limited. The Giants faced a decision about their future home. Discussions began about moving to Yankee Stadium, a venue with better infrastructure. These talks created uncertainty, but also opportunity. A move to a larger stadium could change the team's public presence.
The Giants left the aging Polo Grounds after the 1955 season. They moved across the Harlem River to Yankee Stadium in 1956. This was not just a change in location, it was a step into a larger arena with better views, stronger lighting, and a history that carried weight. Fans felt the difference. The team felt it too. The move marked the start of a new chapter for the franchise and the league. A new head coach took charge that same year. His name was Jim Lee Howell. He kept the team steady and allowed his assistants to develop creative plans. Those assistants were Vince Lombardi on offense and Tom Landry on defense. They were future legends. At that time, they were young coaches learning their craft in New York. Their ideas shaped the team and the league. This created a rare moment where 3 influential minds worked together in the same building. This combination produced results quickly. In 1956, the Giants won the NFL championship at Yankee Stadium. The crowd filled the seats. The score was 47-7 against the Chicago Bears. This game showed how much the Giants changed with their new home and new coaches. It also showed that New York continued to play a leading role in the NFL's rise. Lombardi built an offense that relied on discipline. Landry built a defense that focused on structure. Their systems were new to many teams. Other coaches watched New York with curiosity. They studied the Giants through game film and television broadcasts. This is one of the reasons why New York shaped the modern era. Ideas spread faster from a large market. The Giants became the team others studied. A major shift came in 1958. The Giants reached the NFL championship game against the Baltimore Colts. The game took place at Yankee Stadium. It became known later for its national impact. The game went into sudden death overtime. The Colts won, but the result is not the most important part. What mattered was the visibility. Millions watched on television. This was rare at the time. The game showed how powerful TV could be. It brought intensity into living rooms. It made the NFL feel national. New York played a huge part in this moment. The large market, the stadium atmosphere, and the media presence helped the game reach new heights. Reporters filled the press boxes. Camera crews experimented with shots and sound. The broadcast created strong emotion across the country. The NFL gained a new level of attention. Some historians point to this game as the start of the league's modern age. New York helped create the stage where it happened. After that season, the Giants stayed competitive. They returned to the championship game in 1959,
but lost again to the Colts. The team showed skill and structure, but changes came soon after. Vince Lombardi left the Giants to become the head coach of the Green Bay Packers in 1959. Tom Landry left to lead the Dallas Cowboys in 1960. Both men carried lessons from New York. Their future success came from ideas shaped during their time with the Giants. This is one of the lesser-known ways New York built the modern NFL. The Giants kept moving forward. They adjusted their roster and made coaching changes. They continued to reach championship games. They faced the Green Bay Packers in the 1961 and 1962 NFL title games, losing both times. The scores did not favor New York, but the consistent appearances showed the strength of the franchise. They remained one of the league's most stable and respected teams. Their visibility helped the NFL maintain national attention during years of change. New York's influence extended beyond the field. The city's newspapers kept football in the public eye. The sports sections covered coaching decisions, player injuries, and national storylines. Writers such as Red Smith and other well-known columnists used the Giants to explain broader trends in the NFL. Their words shaped the national understanding of the sport. Readers across the country followed New York's stories because the city carried media authority. Television production also improved during these years. Broadcasters used New York games to test new cameras, audio systems, and studio segments. Networks knew that large audiences lived in the region. They invested in better coverage. These early experiments became the foundation for future NFL broadcasts. The Giants were part of many firsts, including new presentation formats and expanded halftime shows. New York gave the television era its training ground. Another change rose during this period. A new rival league formed in 1960. It was the American Football League, or AFL. It brought new teams, new owners, and new ideas. The AFL placed a team in New York, the New York Titans, who later became the Jets. This set up another fight for the New York market, similar to earlier battles with rival leagues. But this time, the environment was different. Television played a bigger role. Player salaries rose. Public interest grew. The Titans played at the Polo Grounds, the old home of the Giants. The franchise struggled with money. Attendance fluctuated, but the AFL kept pushing. The league drew attention with colorful personalities and open offensive styles. The Giants watched the Titans from across the city, aware that New York again held the key to a larger struggle between two leagues. The AFL brought new energy into the sport. Fans in New York had two pro teams again. Some followed the Giants for tradition, others supported the Titans for fresh excitement. Newspapers compared both teams. Television networks tested ways to cover both leagues. This competition forced each side to improve. The Titans faced financial trouble, but the AFL leadership helped keep them afloat. Pressure rose through the early 1960s as the two leagues fought for players, media rights, and fan attention. New York sat at the center of this battle. The city's size made it the most important market for both leagues. Owners in both leagues knew that winning New York could shift national momentum. The Giants tried to stay consistent during this period. The Titans struggled but stayed alive. The tension grew year by year. A critical moment came in 1963 when the Titans were sold and renamed the New York Jets. The new ownership gave the team stability. They moved toward a brighter future. The Giants remained the established force. The Jets became the rising challenger. Both teams shared the city. Both carried national influence. This dynamic created stronger interest in the New York football market. The rise of the Jets and the pressure from the AFL pushed the NFL to consider major structural changes. The Giants played a role in these discussions by representing a major media market with strong influence. Owners across the country watched how New York responded to the two-league competition. They looked at attendance numbers. They looked at player contract battles. They looked at television ratings. New York's experience helped shape the path that both leagues would follow. By the mid-1960s, the NFL and the AFL stood locked in a long struggle. Both leagues signed top players. Both negotiated for television rights. Both pushed for attention in major cities. Nowhere was this pressure stronger than in New York. The Giants held the long history. The Jets carried fresh energy. The city became the place where the future of pro football would be decided. The Jets made slow progress at first. They changed ownership in 1963. They built stronger leadership. They searched for a clear identity. The AFL needed the Jets to succeed in New York. The league knew that a strong New York franchise gave it legitimacy in the national market. Step by step, the team improved. The new leadership pushed for stability and better roster decisions. In 1965, the Jets signed Joe Namath from the University of Alabama. This was a turning point. Namath arrived with confidence, strong arm strength, and national attention. He became the center of the Jets' identity. His presence helped the AFL gain credibility. His signing also signaled that the AFL could compete for top talent. Many fans recall this moment as a shift in the balance between the two leagues. New York's media followed Namath closely. Newspapers covered his interviews. Cameras focused on him during games. He gave the AFL more visibility than it ever had. This pressured the NFL. The Giants watched this rise from across the city. Their own performance in the late 1960s declined, but their historical influence still carried weight. The contrast between both teams added tension to the era. The rivalry between the leagues reached its breaking point in 1966. Owners held secret meetings. They discussed the costs of bidding wars for players. They studied attendance and media patterns. New York's two-team environment proved that the market was strong but could not support endless competition. Both leagues needed unity to survive. After months of talks, the AFL and NFL agreed to merge. The announcement on June 8, 1966, stunned fans in both leagues. The two rivals would join to form one unified league. They would hold a championship game between the league winners each year until the merger took full effect. This game later became the Super Bowl. The decision changed the course of sports history. New York played a major part in forcing it. The city showed how powerful a large media market could be. It exposed the costs and stress of a two-league battle. But the merger alone was not the end of the story. The AFL needed to prove that it could match the NFL on the field. The Jets carried this burden. The team improved each season. Namath played through injuries. The roster grew stronger. The coaching staff built trust. This led to the 1968 season, a year that changed football forever. The Jets reached the AFL championship game and defeated the Oakland Raiders. They earned the right to play in the AFL-NFL World Championship game. Many experts dismissed the Jets. Most believed the NFL's champion, the Baltimore Colts, would win by a wide margin. The tension surrounding the game was intense. The AFL had never won this championship. The Jets entered the game with pressure from every side. On January 12, 1969, the Jets took the field in Miami. Namath made a public guarantee that the Jets would win. This statement shocked reporters. It raised questions. It raised scrutiny. It created nationwide interest. During the game, the Jets controlled the pace. Their defense forced mistakes. Their offense stayed steady. The Jets won 16-7. The result sent a wave across the sport. This moment holds deep emotional weight in the history of the NFL. It proved that the AFL could compete with the NFL. It showed that the merger would bring balance. It gave the Jets their place in New York history. And it sent a message across the world. The sport had entered a new era. The victory also carried a quieter truth. New York once again shaped a turning point in football history. The Giants built the league's early foundation. They created the path for television. They produced legendary coaches. The Jets showed the power of a rising league. They secured the AFL's equality. Together, both teams marked chapters in the larger story of professional football. The full merger took effect in 1970. The AFL and NFL formed one league with two conferences. The Jets joined the American Football Conference. The Giants entered the National Football Conference. Both teams carried the weight of New York's legacy into the new structure. The rivalry between both teams continued, but it no longer involved two separate leagues. The goal was now growth under one united system. The emotional impact of this era stayed with fans. Families followed both teams. Children learned the names of players from both sides of the city. Stadiums filled with new kinds of excitement. New York remained one of the most important homes of pro football. Every change in the league touched the city in some way. Every shift in public interest passed through New York's media outlets and television markets.